Good morning. Welcome to Symbolab. Today we're going to do some math using a really nice application as we did last time. So today we're going to work on a little pre-algebra. On this section, if we hit more, we have order of operations, factors and primes, LCM, which is least common multiple, GCF, which is greatest common factor, fractions, long arithmetic, decimals, fraction to decimal, decimal to fraction, exponents, radicals, ratios and proportions, percent, mean, median, and mode. Okay, so today let's work on ratios and proportions. Okay, so we're going to compare some ratios. If you know that ratios have a colon in between the number, okay? So we're going to compare some ratios in the example 5 to 1 and 10 to 2. Let's compare these. Okay, so we're comparing the ratios 5 to 1 and 10 to 2. Compare the ratios and they're equal. How do we know that? Let's go through the steps. First thing we need to do is convert 5 to 1 to a fraction. So remember, the colon is the same thing as the fraction line. Okay, the numerator will be the first number, and the denominator will be the second number. Let's show the steps here. Take the first element, 5, to be the numerator, and take the second element to be the denominator. So we have 5 over 1. We know before we go on, 5 divided by 1, when you have a fraction line, is division. 5 divided by 1 is 5. But we still need to compare that to the other fraction. So convert 10 to 1, or 10 colon 1, to a fraction. 10 over 1, which is 10 divided by 2, equals what? 5. But let's go through these steps. So we take the first element, 10, to be the numerator. Take the second element, 2, to be the denominator. Equals 10 over 2. Check if 5 over 1 is equal to 10 over 2. They're equal. Okay, and here are the final steps. We reduce the fraction, 5 over 1, to 5, because 5 divided by 1 is 5, as we said earlier. And we apply the rule. A over 1, A being a number, equals A, that number. Reduce the fraction 10 over 2 to 5. Okay. In order to reduce this fraction, we had to apply the common factor of 10 and 2 in order to cancel it out. The greatest common divisor of 10 to 2 is 2. Factor out 2 from the numerator and denominator. So we have 10 equals 2 times 5. And we factor 2, it's 2 times 1. At this point, the 2 cancels out, and we have 5, because 5 divided by 1 is 5. Therefore, 5 over 1 equals 10 over 2. And we go back to the original problem, and it was compare the ratio of 5 to 1 to 10 to 2, and they are equal. All right, let's try the second one. Compare the ratios 3 to 1 to 8 to 4. Okay, so these are the same steps. We want to convert the fraction first. 3 over 2, let's show the steps. 3 to 2, or 3 over 2, will be 3 in the numerator and 2 in the denominator. 8 to 4 will be 8 in the numerator and 4 in the denominator. I want to check if 3 over 2 is equal to 8 over 4. They're not equal, and let's show the steps how we found this out. We reduce 8 over 4 to 2. Find the common denominator by computing the least common multiplier of 2 and 1. Okay, the least common multiplier, or LCM, of 2 to 1 is 2. Okay, then we convert 2 over 1 to 2 as the denominator 4 over 2. Okay, so 3 over 2 is not equal to 4 over 2. Therefore, 3 over 2 is not equal to 8 over 4. And they're not equal. Another way to figure out these, which we didn't go over, is converting the fraction to a decimal. So if you have a calculator, simply divide 3 divided by 2. It will give you a decimal. Then you take 8 divided by 4, and it will give you a decimal. Okay, 3 divided by 2 is 1 something. 8 divided by 4 will be 2. Okay, so those are not equal. So anytime you're working on these, you can pretty much round your answer or approximate your answer to see the answer that you calculated is correct. You can always check your answer. Okay, let's try to solve a proportion. FYI, all of these questions are based on fractions. Proportions are fractions, and when you're comparing ratios, they're also fractions. So we have to solve the proportion 3 to x equals 2 to 7. Find x for the proportion 3 to x equals 2 to 7. X equals 21 over 2. Okay, here are the steps. Okay, so we have our ratios. We're going to convert these just by taking the horizontal and turning them vertical. Okay, 3 to x is the same thing as 3 over x. 2 to 7 is the same thing as 2 over 7. Okay, so we have 3 over x equals 2 over 7. Okay, it becomes x equals 21 over 2. How do we get that? Let's look at the steps. First, we want to find our least common denominator of 7x. And we switch the sides. 2x equals 21. We divide both sides by 2. We divide both sides by 2, we get 21 over 2. And the same thing we just did is also called cross multiplication. If we multiply 3 times 7, we get 21. If we multiply 2 times x, we get 2. And to isolate the x, we will divide by 2, and that's the same answer as 21 over 2. And put the 3 there. Okay, and then let's change these numbers to possibly 8 and 20. And let's solve. Alright, we're finding a proportion of these numbers, x to 3 and 8 to 20. So find x for the proportion. X equals 6 over 5. How do we get that? So we have our two fractions, x over 3 and 8 over 20. Alright, we could either cross multiply, or let's go through the steps they've given us. Okay, so to find this, we refind, alright, and multiply by the least common denominator. To find your least common denominator, you take the two denominators and you multiply them. Alright, and then we took those and divided both sides by 5, and we got 6 over 5. X equals 6 over 5. Thank you for accompanying me through a Symbolab exercise today. Have an awesome day.